doing tonight? My name is Bigbobbedboi, and welcome to a hunter's guide to pets, pet families, and abilities. Let's introduce pet families first, then we will talk about abilities since they're somewhat tied to families. In Classic, there are 17 pet families, and that sounds like a lot, but most of them you'll probably never use. Essentially, all pets have the same stats, but each pet family has its own stat modifier. For example, cats have a 10% boost to attack, while turtles have a 13% boost to armor. But it's not all great because there are negative modifiers as well. Cats end up with a minus 2% to health, and turtles get a big 10% drop in attack. These modifiers apply family-wide. They don't apply differently to individual pets within a family. So all cats, all wolves, all turtles, etc. at the same level have the exact same stats. Attack speed being the only thing that can vary, and we already talked about that in the attack speed video, so check that out if you haven't seen it yet. So ideally you want to choose a pet family that has the stat modifier suited to the role you want to use that pet in. And that will bring us into pet abilities. Because it's more than just these modifiers that are tied to pets, some abilities are family specific as well. First we'll talk about the abilities that aren't family specific. Every pet can learn Growl. You get a new rank of it every 10 levels, and mercifully, you also get the new ranks from a trainer. It's super useful. Without it, your pet will have a hell of a time keeping aggro for you. You'll probably teach this to almost every pet you have, especially while leveling. All pets can learn a focus dump attack, either bite or claw, and some can even learn both. This is where most of your pet's focus will go, and it makes up a good chunk of your pet's damage. The math I've seen shows bite always doing more damage than claw, but that doesn't render pets who can only learn claw useless. Claw would be amazing with higher focus regen since it has no cooldown, but even with BM talents, focus is pretty slow to regenerate. There are some tricks you can do with a pet that knows bite and claw for an insanely small DPS gain if you're a crazy person. And cower. It's really a niche ability. It's not that often you would need your pet to lower its threat level. Generally, to pull off your pet, you'd be using Distracting Shot, doing more damage, or slow the mob, then call your pet back. Very narrow usage for this. Now we'll go on to some abilities that can't be learned by all pets, like Dash and Dive. Dash and Dive are phenomenal. An 80% speed boost, 15 seconds, on a 30-second cooldown, costing only 20 focus. Yeah, that's amazing. I know it's a class ability, not pet, but compare that to Sprint. Damn! 5 minutes. Obviously this has a ton of uses in PvP, but it's also great for PvE, keeping your pet uptime high, and even while leveling for getting your pet from mob to mob faster. The only real downside to Dash and Dive is if your pet gets feared when it pops off. That can easily send your pet flying into mobs if you've done solo run, you know what I'm talking about, or even send your pet far enough away to despawn if that's happened to me a lot. Dash can be learned by wolves, cats, boars, hyenas, and tall striders. Dive can be learned by bats, owls, wind serpents, and birds. So that means bears, gorillas, crocolisks, crabs, raptors, scorpids, spiders, and turtles do not get a speed boost skill. Dash and Dive are so important that it is really hard to recommend those 8 pet families simply for not having Dash or Dive. That brings us to family specific skills, and there are 8 of those. I'm also going to go ahead and talk about each pet family, their specific stat modifiers, and how useful or not useful that pet family is. There are 17 in total, so I'm going to try to keep this brief. First up, Boars, and they have Charge. So Charge is an excellent boar only skill, very similar to a warrior's charge, but it roots instead of stuns. Boars can also learn Dash, so this really gives them excellent mobility. In fact, boars are the most mobile pet because of it, which is weird. You wouldn't really think of a boar being mobile, but anyway, it also adds a little bit of damage to the first hit after the charge. The only downside is the root is extremely short at 1 second, but it's still very useful. The boar's stat modifier is plus 4% health, plus 9% armor, and minus 10% damage. Notably, they also eat anything. Yeah, literally any type of food you can get, they will eat it. Boars are pretty cool. Next up, cats. Cats get the Prowl ability, which is essentially stealth, plus Prowl gives a 50% bonus to the first attack when attacking out of Prowl. Obviously, this is really nice in PvP, especially as a night elf so your pet isn't out in the open while you meld. Super fun for BM as well, since they won't see that Intimidate stun coming. Prowl even works in PvE, so you can do some fun things with Eyes of the Beast in Prowl. Further, cats have excellent stat modifiers. Minus 2% health, no modifier for armor, and the highest modifier possible for attack at plus 10%. Cats are really, really nice pets. On to gorillas. So yeah, gorillas. Gorillas have Thunder Stomp, which seems awesome, but it has a 1 minute cooldown. Yeah, 1 minute. I'm pretty sure that's the second longest pet ability cooldown. I thought that was wrong. I went and tamed a gorilla to check, and yeah, it is 1 minute cooldown. The damage and threat just aren't there to make up for that being a 1 minute cooldown. On top of the fact, gorillas can't learn dash or dive. They do, however, have a good set of stat modifiers. Usually they are listed as a defensive pet, but that's not really true. They're more of a generalist. They have a 4% boost to health, neutral armor, and a 2% boost to attack. Next up, Scorpids. So they have the Scorpid Poison ability, which is a stacking poison similar to a rogue's deadly poison. Unfortunately, it's just not that useful. It only lasts 10 seconds, and if we need a dot for something like a rogue about to vanish, we can Serpent Sting just as easily, and that lasts longer. In PvE, it takes up a debuff slot, and a lot of bosses are immune to poison anyway. It's pretty underwhelming, even if it may have some very niche uses like protecting other poisons from getting cleansed since it stacks. Again, no dash or dive, but Scorpid stat modifiers are also not great. Neutral health, plus 10% armor, and minus 6% damage. Moving on to Turtles. Probably the most iconic tank pet in vanilla, and that's likely because of its turtle only skill. It's a lot like Shield Wall, though it reduces your pet's attack speed by 43%. Sounds like a fairly nice skill, but I haven't found a lot of uses for it. If I'm soloing a tough mob, I'm more likely to kite it than I am to have my pet try and tank it. And with the attack speed down, threat is going to be an issue even after FDing. Maybe for off-tanking mobs and 20-mans or something like that, I don't know. Turts obviously have some tanky stat modifiers though. Neutral health, plus 13% bonus to armor as high as possible, and a 10% drop in attack. Next up, Wind Serpents. I love these things. Wind Serpents have the excellent Lightning Breath, the only ranged attack any pets have. It's an incredibly useful pet ability. Being magic is really nice on high armor mobs, but also you can use this pet in PvE on mobs that punish melee, although it takes a little bit of pet micromanagement. Lots of uses in PvP as well, which we'll undoubtedly talk about in the video on pets for PvP. Get ready for that one. Of course, Wind Serpents also learn dive, and the Wind Serpents stat modifiers are top notch. Neutral health, neutral armor, and a 7% boost to attack. Wind Serpents are really a great pet. Just to note, a lot of tameable Wind Serpents have messed up stats. If you're interested in taming one, make sure it doesn't have a mana bar when you go to tame it. The most popular Wind Serpent is obviously Son of Akar, and he's fine, you don't have to worry about that with him. Alright, Wolves. I love Wolves. They get Furious Howl, another excellent pet ability that buffs physical damage at an average of 51 every 10 seconds with max rank. 51 doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up, especially in a party since it can buff everyone in the party as long as they're in range of your wolf, and it buffs the wolf's damage as well. In my opinion, this is the pet if you're raid buffing with True Shot Aura. Wolves do get dash, so they got that going for them. Their modifiers are pretty balanced at neutral health, 5% boost to armor, and neutral attack. I do wish they got a little bit of a bonus to attack, but they're still good. I love wolves. Next one is a little different because it's not exactly family specific, it's more mode of transport specific. Only flying guys use it, okay? Alright? So birds, owls, and bats can use Screech. It's a very nice ability that damages its target, but also is like a demo shout effect to anything else in melee range. Even if flyers don't have the highest health or armor, dropping attackers' melee attack power gives it more survivability than you'd think. There's a lot of theory crafting on this. We know Screech does stack with Demo Shout or Demo Roar, and it does have a noticeable effect in raids. Even just leveling though, it's a useful skill for keeping multiple mobs on your pet, even if it doesn't generate a massive amount of threat. Now, carrion birds specifically can learn Screech, Dive, Claw, and Bite. They're the tankiest of the three, with neutral HP, 5% boost to armor, and a neutral attack. Bats and owls, on the other hand, can both learn Screech and Dive, but bats only get Bite and owls only get Claw. They also share the same stat modifiers at neutral health, neutral armor, and 7% boost to attack. All three are good pets. That just leaves the pet families that don't have a unique skill. First up, bears. So bears don't have any unique skills, but they do have the lowest possible attack speed for a pet at 2.5 seconds. Sadly, they can't learn dash. Good tank modifiers at 8% health boost, 5% armor boost, and minus 9% attack. I love bears, but there's really nothing remarkable about them in Classic. Crabs. Why would you even want a crab pet? We're just gonna skip this. Alright, I'll go over it, but they suck. They can learn Claw, Growl, and Cower. That's it. Stat modifiers are minus 4% health, plus 13% armor that's tied with turtles for the highest, and minus 5% attack. Despicable. Crocolisks look awesome, but they're a very sad pet. They can only learn Bite, Growl, and Cower. No dash, no dive, no tendon rip. That should have been their unique ability. Really sad. Their modifiers are minus 5% HP, plus 10% armor, and neutral attack. Alright, hyenas. Well, hyenas can learn Bite and dash, so they aren't garbage tier, but they lack any special ability, and their modifiers are pretty general. Neutral HP, plus 5% armor, and neutral attack. I guess they're good if you want a Scarlet Crusade RP. Spiders are a massive disappointment. They don't have their web ability in Classic, and it is a shame. But even if they had that, they'd still be terrible because they don't have dash for some reason. I don't understand what happened with this pet. It does have alright modifiers at neutral HP, neutral armor, and 7% boost to attack, but with bad abilities, there's just no use for it. Tall Striders are average, but they do look fabulous. You can get one in turquoise or even pink. They can learn dash and they also get Bite, but no unique ability with fairly average modifiers at 5% HP, neutral armor, and neutral attack. That finally brings us to the last and saddest pet family, Raptors. I use them a lot on retail for the Mortal Strike effect, but Raptors in Classic, Raptors really should be good, but they got shafted. I have no idea why, but they cannot learn dash. Boars and Tall Striders get dash, but not Raptors. Okay then. They also didn't get a unique pet family ability. A lot of Raptor mobs have like a charge and stun skill. I'm not sure why they didn't get something like that. And what makes it even more sad is they have great modifiers. Minus 5% HP, plus 3% armor, and a tied for the highest, plus 10% attack. Truly the saddest pet family. Alright, so we know everything about pet families and their abilities, so how do you get these abilities? It's actually quite cumbersome, but you learn pet abilities by taming pets. The only exception being Growl and some passives. So for example, if I want to teach my owl Screech rank 2, I need to find a bird in the wild that knows Screech rank 2 and tame it. Petopia has a great list for what beasts know which abilities. Link for that in the box. Once I've tamed the bird that knows Screech rank 2, I don't instantly know the ability, even though the pet does. I have to use the pet for some time until a message pops up that says I have learned Screech rank 2. At that point, I can now teach Screech rank 2 to any other bird I have or tame in the future. Also, make sure you actually have the pet use the ability you want to pass on. If he doesn't use Screech rank 2, I'll never get that message to pop up in chat, and I'll never learn how to teach it to other birds. I found this out after trying to learn Prowl rank 2 for like an hour. As soon as I had the pet actually use it, it took like 2 minutes to learn it. And normally, that's about how long it takes, just a couple uses before you learn it. When you're teaching pets new abilities, there's a few things to check. Make sure you have enough training points. You'll get these as your pet levels and through your pet's loyalty level. Generally, it won't be an issue unless it's a new pet you just tamed. Make sure your pet can actually learn the skill. We don't want to try and teach a crab Furious Howl. Actually, we don't want a crab at all. Forget about crabs. Also, check the required pet level of a skill. Most of them have level requirements. After that, you should be good to go. And quickly, I also want to mention passive pet abilities that you learn from the trainer. These can increase stamina, armor, or spell resistances. It's actually really cheap to respec your pet, so just set these for whatever you plan on using the pet for. For instance, my pet's going in MC tonight, spec fire and shadow resistance, and then respec when needed. Alright, damn, this video got a lot longer than I expected, but I think we've covered everything we need to know about pet families and abilities. Thanks for sticking it out with me this long. If you enjoyed the video, hit that sub button because I have a lot more hunter related content coming. Specifically, videos on pets for PvE, pets for PvP, and pets for leveling are the next ones in the pipeline. If you have any other ideas for hunter stuff that you'd like to see, let me know. Subs are a big part of making the channel grow, and I really do appreciate each and every one I get. I spend a ridiculous amount of time on my YouTube analytics page watching that sub counter. But that is going to be all for this one. I really appreciate you all watching, and I will see you all for the next one.